Finally, we have the individual level of analysis when looking at security. That means individuals themselves can become a causative factor for insecurity. And the impact of the insecurity may not only uh, be domiciled at their locality or the local level. It is almost and always likely that the insecurity that results from the individual level of analysis usually escalates to community, state, or even international level. So, in fact, to some people, they believe that all forms of insecurity are rooted at the individual level. However, it's important to analyze the individual level of insecurity by understanding that all forms of decisions are taken by human beings, regardless. Of course, we have AI now coming in, artificial intelligence making some decisions for us, but traditionally, we see human interactions, policy, and all other decisions that are made as emanating from human beings. So when we look at the individual level of analysis in an attempt to understand the causative factors for insecurity, we see some very prominent examples in history that somehow illustrate the point of individual level analysis when dealing with the causative factors of insecurity. Let's take Adolf Hitler, for instance. And this is very prominent examples, the fact that he was primarily at the root of the cause of the Second World War, a war that, was fought all over the world, in all regions of the world. And to many historians, this war could have been voided uh, if the individuals at the center of the conflict, you know, were different kinds of human beings. Now, that's with reference to Hitler, for instance, who had always wanted war, and there was no question to what he wanted regarding Europe at that time and the larger world. His mind was set, on getting Lebensraum, elevating the position of the Aryan race beyond other races, so on and so forth, you know, establishing the position of Germany as a power, not just in Central Europe, the whole of Europe and the world over. Generally, all his agenda, his political, economic, and social agenda was such that it was aggressive, enough to cause conflict. So that's the reason why one of the key central reasons that are studied as a causative factor of the Second World War is the militarization, dictatorship and militarization, in Europe at that time. Of course, we usually also study alongside the rise of Hitler, the rise of Benito Mussolini of Italy, who, these two people believed in, Hitler believed in Nazism, while, Mussolini believed in fascism. These two people believed in extreme form of nationalism that promoted insecurity. So the individual level, the individual is critical to analyzing the causative factors of insecurity. So this is an example that we usually look at, when we're engaging with security at the international level. But when you move down to localities, we can be able to uh, pinpoint some of the key factors that individuals engage with that eventually leads to a whole lot of insecurity. Identity politics, for one, is one of these key factors that one can identify, that once they begin to become dominant at the community level, they are very likely going to lead to insecurity, because identity politics usually lead to exclusivism, the sense that certain groups start feeling uh, excluded, certain groups start feeling marginalized, and when we see identity politics emerge in forms of racism or religious bigotry, for instance, you are very sure that insecurity is going to emerge. We've seen this happen in northern Nigeria, and also in the middle belt where we see, religion being used as a form of identity politics, as a line, to for the use of politicians who are individuals. Mind us, these are individuals who engage in these forms of identity politics that eventually move, an entire community. That means it moves from them as an individual to entire communities, and eventually they now begin to have a national impact as we see the issues of religious extremism in the north of Nigeria having an overall impact on the nation of Nigeria. Now, beyond that, remember I say uh, many things that happen at the individual level eventually end up at the systemic level. Now we have the United States threatening to intervene in Nigeria's politics, you know, because of some forms of engagement that individuals have chosen, at the individual level, which are largely, bigoted in nature, exclusivist in nature, largely the discriminatory of other groups, religious groups, to be specific, and Christians, particularly in this particular case. So we've seen that now start having effect at the international level. So no matter how we engage with this issue at the individual level, is almost every likelihood that eventually it will affect every level of analysis in security, both the individual level, the systemic or institutional level, the state or institutional level, and then eventually the systemic level. Thank you very much for paying attention to this class. I'll see you in the next class.